Hey, all you nature nuts. Welcome to the next episode of the Outdoor Report with the wonderful New England snowy background that we got going on here. Today, we're going to highlight a few pretty cool things that are happening out there. We're going to talk about an article in Melanin Base Camp about how REI did a little thing, a little fucky. We're going to highlight a cool little modern day leave no trace principle about kind of how we can navigate the natural environment a little more consciously. And then we're also gonna talk about this cool article in A Thousand Hours Outside about exposure to morning sunlight, right? So we'll get into all of that and more coming up after the intro. Our first article comes from melaninbasecamp.com, and we're not going to cover, we're just going to summarize this article, but if you want to read the whole thing for yourself, you will have a link for it in the description box below, so check it out. But the title of this is How Mountain Project Stole from a Woman of Color and Spent Years Defending Hate Speech in the Climbing Community. Last year, a 29-year-old rock climber and web developer decided to push back against climbing routes with offensive and discriminatory names. Within the North American climbing community, first ascensionists, usually white men, have long had the power to marginalize BIPOC, queer, trans, disabled, and wominx climbers by creating route names like Slight Eyes, Lynch Mob, Case of the Fags, Full Retard, and I don't know what that one is. Swazi, but super shitty stuff to say, and name climbing routes after. Like, what the hell? Like, and we all know there's a big systemic problem in the outdoor community with this stuff. In January, and this is why we're bringing it up now, so we can try to stop this and make people more aware. In January 2020, Melissa Utomo pitched REI for the first time. She met via teleconference with senior program manager to discuss a climbing website which REI owned called Mountain Project. And that's a very popular website, so you might have heard about it, and you might even use it. Although REI acquired Adventure Projects, which includes Mountain Project, in 2015, it's been around since the early aughts. It's a crowdsourced climbing website that enables users to search for information, upload photos, add comments, and discuss related topics. So Melissa's proposal included a well-researched, thoughtfully designed feature that would allow users to flag racist, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, and ableist route names. It should have been a straightforward collaboration with REI, right? Pretty easy. Like, let's flag these things so we can know they're there and maybe we can change the name. They had an embarrassing racism problem, and Melissa had a simple solution. Instead, what ensued was a months-long battle against willful corporate ignorance that culminated in June 2020 when Mountain Project stole her intellectual property. Stole that whole process of the idea of researching and flagging all these racist, misogynistic climbing route names, right? So, yeah, that's what's happening. Like, it's going on right now. This whole thing is happening right now. In recent years, Mountain Project has gained notoriety as it transformed into an online hub for bigotry and racist trolls. The website's refusal to remove incredibly offensive names for climbing routes didn't help, right? No leadership. Individual route names have long been contested by climbers of color with little to no response from Mountain Project admins. Mountain Project and REI, by extension, were more comfortable with protecting the rights of first ascensionists than with envisioning a future where no climber has the power to name a climbing route Black chicks and heat. Chronic Trips brings this up because it's Black History Month, and though we don't believe in delegating just 1 month to this stuff, we just think it's nice to highlight organizations, individuals, um, anything that's going on that we can just kind of uplift everybody else to kind of shine our light where we can. So this is why we're talking about this right now. So we, they took her intellectual property. Mountain Project took it, right? And I'm gonna highlight this right here. So, so we need to protect Melissa right now, right? This doesn't mean flooding her inbox with empathetic messages. It means turning the spotlight on Mountain Project and other companies which have long been avoiding transparency and accountability, right? So, like, the fact that they stole her intellectual property for this wonderful idea of flagging racist and a slew of other names for these climbing routes, we need to actually do something. Like, giving her thoughts and prayers don't do anything. So, like, we can do something by putting pressure on companies like Mountain Project and the mother company. What's that called again? Adventure Projects, right? Which REI owns. So we need to be putting pressure on REI, Adventure Projects, and which include Mountain Project, to not be assholes and steal people's intellectual property, to only do it half-assed. It doesn't do anything. So we need to put a spotlight on them, which claim to do diversity, equity, and inclusion work while refusing to address hate speech, right? They literally teach diversity, equity, and inclusion in their business model, but they refuse to address hate speech. We need to call them out. We need to call these companies that steal from women of color while simultaneously refusing to acknowledge the ideas, leadership, and expertise of BIPOC. We need to rethink the act of naming or renaming climbing routes in areas which often erases indigenous history, language, and place names. Right? I was just having a conversation with somebody today that, with Julia, our board member, like, if people aren't educated on how to behave sometimes, it's not inherent to be treating natural areas with respect, or even people with respect sometimes. That's all. It's a little bit nature versus nurture, right? But, like, you can't hate on them for not understanding. You just got to educate and just try and keep educating relentlessly, no matter how frustrating it is. And this is a great way to do it, having something like this where you can just instantly flag, all right, this needs, like, here's a climbing route name that's super horrible name. Like, can we change that? It's a name. Who gives a shit? And so, one of the things that the Mountain Project was saying, like, if you're a first ascensionist, if you're the first one to do it, you should be able to name it whatever you want. Doesn't matter what it is, even if it is like part of hate speech. Like, it's their right. They did that. It's freedom of speech, And no. Like, no, you shouldn't be able to. I'm not down with the censorship, but it's like, you shouldn't, like, obvious things that, like, it's just a no-brainer. Like, just people need to suck up their pride. You can just, like, name it something else just as easily. You don't have to name it a racist thing. It's pretty simple. So we should be helping Melissa out. Go to the Melanin Base Camp, the link to this article below, and you can read more about this. It's a wonderful article. There's so much more to it that I didn't talk about, and you can figure out what to do from there and support Melissa and put pressure on these companies to stop being dickbags. It's pretty freaking easy to be a nice person. So together we can put pressure on these people. I know I'm going to send a letter out. In this article, it said, there's a link right here. Contact the REI Board of Directors. Send them a note. Let them know you ain't happy. You ain't happy. You read this article and you ain't happy. All right, on to article number Ew. So I came across this fun little, article in How to Trail Run and Trail Runner Mag, right? It's not How to Trail Run, but it's about trail etiquette and the environment. So if you know anything about the Leave No Trace principles, it talks a lot about, where you should be camping, how you should be treating each other, how you should be treating natural environment, obviously pack in, pack out, stuff like that. But this has a little bit of a modern take on it, and I thought I would share just kind of like little more to Leave No Trace because it's a little more awareness. It's good, you know. So the first thing is tag responsibly, right? They talk about geotags and specific location markers, and just being aware that thinking before you tag because you could funnel people there. During this pandemic, you might have noticed that a lot of people are at trailheads, especially on nice days. You might see that a trail that might not be crowded is actually full now. So these are one of the things that can help you from alleviating that is by tagging responsibly. Don't think before you tag. Send the right message. Make a difference, encourage positive conversations about outdoor ethics. So if you are going to tag, just like promote environmental stewardship, leave no trace principles, encourage giving back. So maybe you can, one of the days that you go out is maybe for a trail crew or something. I don't know. Um, so every time you go out, you know, you are an advocate for the environment no matter what. So people watch, kids watch. Um, Plan your run, yeah, we know that, you know, this is about etiquette, right? So on the run, use the trail work, right? This is where rubber hits the ground, literally and figuratively. Staying on the trail, right? So just like L&T principles, if you got to get off the trail, durable surfaces. So it's basically what this is talking about. Just use the trail, right? Just don't stray from the trail too much because that makes an impact. Dispose of waste properly. So you don't want to, like, given in the area doesn't mean you should be pooping there, you know? You gotta watch where you poop sometimes. So make sure you know where you're going and yeah, where you're going and prepared to deal with it if uh, if that arises. So this is a fun tip. It's more fun to poop when you can read the latest trail runner than hanging your butt over a log. So avoid the hassle and plan ahead. Caffeinate as soon as you get up in the morning. Good news. It's your excuse for a second cup of coffee. If it doesn't happen in your home throne, use trailhead facilities, right? So what they're trying to say is poop before you go. It's a good little tip, right? Leave what you find, right? Don't like, you know, you see a lot of people taking rocks and minerals and stuff. Don't do that. Respect wildlife. We try to respect wildlife. Don't go running off and hugging a bison. That's, you know, as we've seen lately, could take your pants off literally. Use poles thoughtfully, right? So this has been a kind of a big debate lately about trekking poles. You know, sometimes maybe you don't want to bring it because what those do is they leave holes in the ground. And so maybe just as long as you're aware of yourself and aware of where you're going, it might call for trekking poles that day and it might not. You know, study does show that, you know, trekking poles do help us in a number of ways and alleviates a lot of pressure on certain parts of our bodies, like our ankles and our knees. But at the same time, you know, is it worth killing the environment, right? Or like damaging the environment? So, got to weigh it out for yourself. I'm just giving you the information. But maybe use them a little more thoughtfully from now on, and maybe just on a nice and easy day, you don't need to be stabbing the ground with your trekking pole because, you know, even without knowing it, it's a habit. You just hulk out and let her rip. You know, it happens to me. I get it. I'm trying to work on this too. All right, the last article I wanted to go over is this one from 1000hoursoutside.com. and it's titled Exposure to Morning Sunlight Profoundly Affects Mood, Health, and Nighttime Sleep, right? So, again, all of the articles we're talking about today are in the description box below, just in case I don't get to everything. I usually don't. I just try to summarize and highlight, and you can go read the rest for yourself. But this is one that I'm probably going to cover pretty thoroughly. So get ready, strap on in. So I didn't pay attention much when my midwife first suggested to try and get our kids outside before noon in order to help them sleep at night. I never heard anything like that before, and it also seemed counterintuitive. When March rolled around this year, we were looking for simple strategies to help improve the health of our family, and that search took me back down the road toward this concept of morning sunlight exposure. Since first being introduced to the idea, I'd read a little bit more about it, but we had never committed to it before. Most often, our outside time was in the afternoon, after lunch, schoolwork, and chores. So, briefly, the idea of this is we all like to get up and make a cup of coffee and maybe read the paper. Basically, instead of doing that, or, grab your cup of coffee, but go outside, get morning sunlight. First thing you should do, get up, go outside, right? So back to the article. With life flipped upside down, we gave morning sunlight exposure a go, and the results were immediate and they were remarkable. So much so that we put out a month-long Sunlight Before Noon challenge that many of you participated in. As we head into the holiday season and into the short winter days here on our side of the world, we are recommitting to a lifestyle that includes at least 20 to 30 minutes of exposure to morning sunlight, and here are a few reasons why. 1. Exposure to early morning sunlight helps you sleep at night. On the surface, it doesn't seem to make any sense, but it's true. One human eyeball contains 1 billion working parts. 1 billion. The closest, most intricate man-made item is a space shuttle, with 500 million working parts. One of your eyes is twice as complex as the most complex thing man has ever made. According to Jacob Lieberman, OD, PhD, when sunlight enters the eyes, the entire brain lights up. Indoor light is solely for vision, but full spectrum sunlight affects so much more. Light is a guide for the trillions of cells in our body through a process called photobiomodulation. Bam! Light entering the eyes transmit time of day information to the brain and to the body. Sunlight sends a wake-up signal to the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland responds by releasing hormones. Bright morning light tells your body to suppress melatonin production and increase cortisol production, which is good for you in healthy amounts, and serotonin. Ooh, good old serotonin. Eventually, the pineal gland metabolizes serotonin into melatonin, and that's what helps you naturally fall asleep at night. Boom. Natural cycles, right? Got to tune into the biometric clock, your own little clock. And it's coincides with the sun, our natural rhythms. To summarize, if we expose our eyes, body, and face to morning sunlight, our body will respond by increasing serotonin. Serotonin is a precursor to melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate sleep and wake cycles. Morning sunlight provides the raw materials our body needs to make melatonin when the day starts winding down. 2. Exposure to early morning sunlight enhances your mood. Serotonin is the feel-good chemical, just in case you didn't know about that. And one way to control its release is to expose yourself to morning sunlight. There is ample research to suggest that serotonin plays an active role in the treatment of depression, too. Exposure to full-spectrum sunlight in the morning causes our bodies to produce serotonin, which not only helps later on with nighttime sleep, but improves mood throughout the day. Bright light has been used for a long time as a standard treatment for seasonal depression, and will continue in the next little blip. Outdoor light, even on a cloudy day, delivers considerably more lux than indoor light. Rainy winter days will produce lux levels of 1,000 or more, which is far greater than any inside light will produce. And on sunny summer days, sunlight can deliver light that is 1,000 times brighter than indoor light. 3. Exposure to early morning sunlight enhances your health. Our bodies are light receptors. Some of the sunlight entering our eyes is sent to the hypothalamus, which coordinates and regulates most of our life sustaining functions and also initiates and directs our reactions to stress. Approximately 100 of our body systems are tied to the day and night cycle. Humans are diurnal creatures. Our rhythms revolve around the patterns of the sun and the moon. Ivy Chung, PhD, candidate in neuroscience at Northwestern, says light is the most important synchronizing agent for the brain on body. Proper synchronization of internal biological rhythms with the Earth's daily rotation has been shown to be essential for health. 4. Exposure to early morning sunlight can help with weight loss. According to this study, those with earlier light exposure weighed less, and results can be seen in just 3 short weeks. Even after controlling for all non-light exposure factors, including food intake, sleep, activity, the influence of morning light on weight was considerable. It accounted for roughly 20% of the subjects' BMIs, meaning those with earlier light exposure weighed less. For our family, we clearly noticed the effects of outdoor play and sunlight exposure long before we began reading the accompanying research. Most of us do when we are intuitive with this stuff. We're just like, we just know it feels right and it is right. And then once we start reading this stuff, we're like, yeah, we get it now. But it's nice to have science to back things up. At this point, however, knowing some of the research helps us stay motivated, especially on cold, wet, dreary winter days when we'd rather stay inside. Knowing these benefits and assuming there are probably even more that we don't know pushes us out, and we always notice improvements in health, mood, and sleep. So don't just look outside in the morning and be like, "Man, it's raining out there. I'm gonna do better inside." No, you're not. It's always better to be outside, and this proves it. No matter what, even on rainy, snowy days, you're gonna get more light exposure than you would indoors. Amazing stuff. And we thank the author right at the top, Ginny Urich. I think that's how you say her name. Thank you for making this article. It really is articulates it well of the importance of morning sunlight. You know, so maybe through this you'll consider getting more of your morning dedicated to the outdoors and trying to get your circadian rhythm going in tune with our natural cycles, because it's showing that you can weigh less through this, you'll sleep better, and through that, who knows what you could do. You could do anything. All right, thanks for tuning in, friends. Hope you found some of that interesting, all of it interesting. Hope you learned something. Hope you got some new wrinkles in your brain, get all that stuff kind of like melting around up there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday with our Explore Report, getting you hyped and motivated for the weekends. Like I said, all the stuff we discussed is the links are in the description box below, so you can go and check out and get more edumacated. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.